To this court case now, a power outage appears to have sparked the adjournment of the National Health Insurance case in the High Court in Pretoria to this afternoon. Today was the second day of the hearing in the case, which the Board of Healthcare Funders and the South African Private Practitioners Forum have brought against the Health Department. The organizations want to halt the implementation of the National Health Insurance Act, saying that it is unconstitutional and does not guarantee universal access to quality health care. COSATU has meanwhile pledged solidarity with the Department of Health. Its members picketed outside court, calling for the speedy implementation of the NHI Act. SABC News economics reporter Katlego Legodi was there and filed this report for us.
Private practitioners and medical aid schemes just making their case on day 2 of this High Court proceeding in Pretoria. We see them arguing their case before Judge Twala. Section 84 of the Constitution just coming under the spotlight. Section 17 of the Constitution just also coming under the spotlight. We see them today also telling us about the parameters, the constitutional parameters that exist within this case, the limitations, the powers of the president in ensuring that at least there is also adequate consultation before an act can be, or a bill can be signed into an act. We saw the president moving last year in May to sign this bill into an act, and the expectations were that there would be a rollout then from there in terms of a movement towards the implementation of the NHI per universal access to healthcare. But really, when you look at it, there have been the stumbling blocks, and the High Court being one of them, as we see these medical practitioners as well, medical aid as well, just coming through to say that they would want for this act to be set aside as it's unconstitutional, also arguing here that it did not really meet the parameters in terms of the consultations, but also coming out today with the issue of the jurisdiction, as whether we want to know whether the High Court is the right court to entertain this matter, or it should be moved to the Constitutional Court, which is the arguments that are currently being made before Judge Twala. I'm going to bring into the conversation with us now COSATU. We find them here. They've been demonstrating since yesterday and even today, joined by the SACP, and we see all of these challenges, infrastructure. I mean, we're now in the dark because of what happened there in terms of, I don't even know if it's load shedding or load reduction, but the power went off. Hence, we see this process moving to a virtual platform in the afternoon. But let me get your reaction to what came out in the morning, looking at the arguments that were already made here, also drawing from what came out yesterday, where the presidency made their own case before Judge Twala, arguing for the implementation in full of the NHI as we see it. Welcome to the SABC, Zanele.
Thank you so much for having us. So what we saw today is the other side, the side of the Board of Healthcare Funders and the South African Private Practitioners Forum giving their arguments. And so we sat in court and we listened, and we were rudely interrupted by the power going off. It was expected yesterday, but it didn't happen yesterday. So today, what is going to happen is the proceedings will continue virtually, however, so that, they're finalized today and we don't have to come back here tomorrow. What will happen next is, as soon as the groups that brought the case to court are finished with their submissions, then it will be the chance of the Department of Health and the presidency to actually rebut on what was said this morning.
Let's talk about the argument made by Advocate Du Plessis. We saw him going into the Constitution as well, talking about the limitations, that exist here where the president is concerned. Also going to a point of saying that were there adequate consultations here? They want the records, and they want these records to be made clear in terms of where we find ourselves. What informed the signing into law of this particular bill? What do you make of these arguments that have been brought forward here, starting with that one of the issues around jurisdiction, of whether the courts is the right one, the High Court, to argue this matter? We saw it coming out through the presidency as well yesterday.
Well, that's actually the crux of the matter. The fact that the Department of Health and the presidency are saying it doesn't belong here. It should have gone straight to the Constitutional Court. They, however, have a different view, and they say, this is the right court to bring it to. And so this is why we have a judge, and quite frankly, as a qualified journalist, This is above my pay grade and I cannot enter into it. But obviously, as COSATU, we are hoping that the Department of Health and the presidency wins out, because for us, it is an emergency that the NHI actually gets down to being implemented so we can see universal health care for all in South Africa.
And just before we let you go out of time, Zanele, where to from here in terms of your demonstrations? I mean, we found you here outside putting pressure, looking at what's happening inside. Now this process is moving virtually. Where do we place you in this new development?
We are going to log in. We're interested. And we're interested all the way through. So we are going to log in. They'll provide us with the link and we'll go in and listen, and then we'll see what comes out of it. But we are here for the long haul. We are behind government all the way through, because we push for the NHI and we want it for the working class and the poor of this country. We can't continue to have the two systems. South Africa's story continuing 31 years into democracy, and so we want it and we will continue. We're right behind government. Be assured, COSATU, the alliance is right behind you. The SACP you saw earlier on, we're right behind you.
Isabella, thank you very much coming through there from COSATU, just giving us a sense of the pressure that they'll apply, even moving to the virtual platform. It's hot in Tshwane, and at least this virtual platform will give us a little bit of breathing room here, but we will continue monitoring what is happening as this case continues in the afternoon. I'm Katlego Legodi for SABC News at the High Court in Pretoria.